Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Ferrer, and today I will be introducing the topic of price controls, namely price ceilings and price floors. These policies are often implemented by governments to protect consumers or producers, but they can also lead to unintended consequences in the market. So, today we'll be exploring what these policies are, how they function, and how they impact supply and demand, and also how they affect both consumers and firms. All right, so first up, we can start with price ceilings. A price ceiling is a legal maximum on the price of a good or service. So, governments will usually implement price ceilings when they believe that the market price is too high for essential items. And this can include things like housing, fuel, or medicine. And the goal is really to just keep these goods affordable for consumers. So, if you can see the following graph, we have a basic supply and demand model for a product. The intersection of the supply and demand curves, that notch, that point represents the equilibrium price and quantity where the market clears. So now you will notice the horizontal line below the equilibrium price, the red line there. That's the price ceiling. And when the price ceiling is set below the equilibrium, it becomes binding, meaning that it actively affects the market. So at this lower price, quantity demanded increases because the good is more affordable. At the same time, quantity supplied decreases because producers earn less revenue and they might find it unprofitable to supply as much. So this gap between quantity demanded and quantity supplied creates a shortage. And in the short term, some consumers benefit because they get a product that's at a lower price, but many others are worse off. They may not be able to find the product at all because it's been totally wiped from the market, especially if demand outpaces supply. So from a firm's perspective, a binding price ceiling will often lead to lower profits, of course. A firm might cut back on production, lower the quality of their products, or exit the market entirely if supplying the good is no longer sustainable. A common real-world example of a price ceiling is rent control. So cities like New York or San Francisco have rent ceilings to keep housing affordable. While this helps some tenants, it often leads to housing shortages, deteriorating apartments, and a lack of new rental development, which is not great. Okay, next we'll take a look at price floors. So a price floor is the opposite of a price ceiling in that it's a legal minimum price that can be charged for a good or service. So this is usually implemented to protect producers from prices that are considered too low to be sustainable. Common examples include minimum wages in labor markets and agricultural subsidies. In this graph that you can see here, the price floor is the horizontal line, again, the red line that is above the equilibrium price. So when a price floor is set above equilibrium, it's become binding, meaning that it actively affects the market. At this higher price, producers are willing to supply more because they earn a higher return, but consumers demand less since the product has become more expensive. So this results in a surplus in labor markets. This translates to unemployment, and in product markets, it can lead to unsold goods. And you might think a surplus sounds like a good thing, but actually in economics, it means that things are not running as efficiently as they can. And in economics, we love efficiency. From the consumer perspective, this means higher prices, less access to the good, and in the labor market, businesses may hire fewer workers, automate jobs, or reduce hours to cope with the higher wage costs. From the firm's point of view, a binding price floor increases operating costs, and in competitive markets, these costs are often passed on to consumers. So in some cases, like government-backed agricultural programs, the state may purchase the surplus in order to maintain the policy, leading to additional taxpayer costs. One historical example is the U.S. government's policy of setting price floors for crops like corn or wheat. And these programs often resulted in excess production, and the government had to buy and store large quantities of surplus grain. Right now, let's compare price ceilings and price floors to help summarize the key differences. Price ceilings are set below equilibrium and result in shortages. They benefit consumers in the short term by keeping prices low, but it can hurt availability and product quality. Price floors, on the other hand, are set above equilibrium and lead to surpluses. So they aim to protect producers, but can reduce market efficiency and raise prices for consumers. So it's also important to note that both policies reduce total economic surplus. That is the combined benefit to consumers and producers by preventing the market from reaching its most efficient outcome. All right, so now let's look at some real-world examples. What does this all mean in the real world? The intention behind price controls is often noble. Governments want to protect vulnerable consumers or maybe ensure fair wages for workers, but these policies also cause unintended distortions in the market. So in Venezuela, for example, where I'm from, strict price ceilings on food and basic goods have led to massive shortages, long queues, and even black markets, which is obviously not good because things are not being regulated the way they should. In the U.S., agricultural price floors have created surpluses that were so large that the government sometimes had to pay farmers not to plant crops. So, moreover, non-price rationing, which is like first come, first served systems or favoritism, can emerge in these distorted markets, reducing fairness. So for firms, price ceilings often mean tight margins or reduced incentives to produce, while price floors may require adjustments like layoffs, automation, or lobbying for subsidies. So for consumers, these impacts vary. While some enjoy lower prices or better job opportunities, others face scarcity or job loss. In conclusion, price floors and price ceilings are powerful tools that governments use to intervene in markets. While they can correct certain market failures or protect public interest, they often lead to shortages, surpluses, and reduced economic efficiency. Understanding these mechanisms is absolutely critical, not only as students of economics, but as informed citizens or future policymakers even, because these things affect the costs of everyday goods and services. And every intervention has a trade-off, but it's our job to analyze who benefits, who pays the cost, and whether the long-term consequences are worth the short-term relief. So thank you very much. I hope to have provided a clearer picture about price controls, about what they are, why they exist, and what effects they have on our economy. Thank you.